myself, Mr. Kothari, I have been working in machine tool industry for last 30 years, and it's Premier Limited. So the expertise was in gear cutting, gear machines like gear hobbing, gear shaping, gear tool chamfering, rounding machines, and also our other products were like vertical turret lathes and machining centers. Gear hobbing process, the most versatile manufacturing process. Now, in a gear hobbing, say we have here a raw material, it could be a gear blank, then we can machine the gear with hobbing process or shaping process primarily, say. Then these two gears after machining can be shaved for finishing operation. After shaving is a finishing operation. Hobbing and shaping are roughing operations. Primarily, they are roughing operations. Though of late, there are some machines and technologies which can eliminate shaving, and gears can be offered directly to heat treatment, that's hardening. But let us discuss the process like raw material, hobbing, shaping, shaving, then heat treatment, that is hardening. After hardening, we have honing, and then finish hardened gears. Now, honing is also a newer technology than grinding technology, but either the gear to be ground or honed by after heat treatment is the process. Now, if shaving is done, then honing is better. If after heat treatment, more accuracy is required. But at times, after hardening, it is also stopped. And the shaved gears after hardening, the accuracies are studied, put into practice for shaping and hobbing operations in the terms of process parameters, so that the shaved gears after hardening directly used in the assembly. Maybe like reverse gear or the first gear of automobiles or cooler are only shaved, and probably they are given directly for assembly. But speed gears like third gear or fourth gear, especially, they are shaved, they are ground and later on for noise purpose, because that's the gear where normally vehicle runs for most of the time in usage. Then after honing, we have finish hardened gear. This is one of the soft gear dynamic. I mean, how the soft gear goes into the process. So we go to the next slide. That is hard gear dynamic. Now here we have raw material, hobbing and shaping. Then we go for the heat treatment, that is the hardening, and we do the sky hobbing. Now sky hobbing is also a similar process to hobbing, only the tools are different and the process is different. In short, there is a sky hob. It has to be necessarily a very hardened hob than the hardened gear. So naturally, it comes to the carbide hob. So carbide hob does the sky hobbing. That hob, since the cutting forces are very large, one point need to remember about that sky hobbing cutter, that is the sky hob, is that it has a negative rake angle because it has to withstand the large cutting forces in sky hobbing. Secondly, since the sky hobbing is a hardened gear hobbing, that means previously the teeth are already formed. The teeth are hardened. Now we have to do the sky hobbing. So that teeth has to mesh with the hob teeth properly before the start of every cutting cycle. Hence, there is a sensor or a device which positions the workpiece in front of the hob tooth. The tooth space of the hardened gear is positioned in front of the tooth of the cutter, and they mesh first, and or rather both the cycle, the reading of the workpiece and the reading of the cutter starts from that specific point, and it stops at the specific point only, so that meshing is happening properly, because the allowance on the hardened gear is very small. For the carbide hobbing, the allowance is not much. It's in the range of 0.6 to 0.15 at the most per flag, because the more the allowance, costly the process, costly the hob. Wear and tear of carbide hob is very costly. Sharpening is also very costly. So the allowance is kept less. So when the allowance is kept less, the machine has to be very accurate, and therefore it has to be oriented position engagement, and therefore these two things are just differing from the common hobbing operation. One is the tool, the second is the positioning or orienting of the hardened gear for the cutter. Now the blanking, see, any gear cutting, first we need a gear blank. So That gear blank is nothing but a turned blank or the blank finished or ready for the hobbing operation, just uh, having the necessary allowance on it. So the blanking refers to the initial metal cutting operation in the process planning. That could be like turning operation sequence, which produce contour of a part starting from the raw material. It's a simple thing. I mean, we need to have a shape of the gear to be cut on the machine. At least the workpiece configuration or the component configuration has to be near to the part to be cut. That is the gear on the machine. So it removes the excess material to machine the part in sprint specification. So of course, in industries, you all should be knowing we have stage drawings like operation 10 for turning, operation 20 for drilling, operation 30 for some machining center operation, and then operation 40 for gear hobbing, then operation 50 for gear tooth chamfering. So all these stages drawings play a very important role. So that stage drawing, when it comes to the hobbing operation, is nothing but the blanking operation. That's the gear blank. Then we leave adequate stock for finishing operations. Then to prepare very good quality surfaces for location clamping of the part throughout the process. This is very important in blanking. See, my experience tells me most of the inaccuracies are caused because of the inadequate attention paid to the blanking operation. We do not have the geometrical accuracies as desired and required for the hobbing or shaping operations. And that lead to the errors in hobbing and shaping, which then we may attribute it wrongly to machine errors or process errors. So yes, means we should have very good input conditions, and therefore it is of very importance that the surfaces needed or the references needed for hobbing and shaping are taken care in gear blanking manufacturing. Understood? Very important operation. So gear blanking, you should pay attention. The turner should know that this blank is going to go for gear cutting. So turner or the supervisor over there should pay attention. Say for it is a shaft type component, the centers to be produced very neatly. No nicks, no marks, no grease. The surface finish has to be good. Further, the coaxiality of the center has to be very good. If it is a gear blank, the bore size has to be perfect. It should be as per drawing, as per the fixture developed for the gear hobbing machine for location purpose. It should have, if it's a collet type fixture, the gap should be same as desired. If it's a solid location fixture, if it is to be H7 class, it has to be H7 class. So I would say the gear blanking accuracy in short term, my experience tells me, has to be one grade upper than the grade required for the gear hobbing operations. Very important statement from my side. If you require a D8 class gear, please see that you produce a blank in IT7 grade. So we go to the hobbing process. Let us see understand the fundamental process. So we have seen the gear terminology. We have seen the blanking process. I will see the hobbing process. It little bit basics will go so that we all knows we do all everyday hobbing, but we at times we don't know what is the basic. So by virtue of this training session, let us go through the basics quickly. Most fundamental process in manufacturing, it's very high productivity and versatility in manufacturing of spur and helical gears. So it can produce, it's mainly meant for cylindrical gears, and it is a continuous generating process. So once you start cutting the gear till it ends the phase width, the whole gear is cut out. It's not intermittent. It's a continuous generating. Then during hobbing, both the cutter, that is the hob, and the workpiece rotate in a continual time relationship. This is a very important statement. What does it mean actually? So that hob and workpiece, they should be in continual time relationships. Continual means at no time it should get disturbed. Once got disturbed, either hob will break or the gear blank will break. Normally the hob breaks. So this relationship has never to be disturbed. What is time relationship? Time relationship means for every rotation of the hob, there is certain indexing rotation of the workpiece. That timing, that particular movement has to be maintained. It's like the hob and workpiece are married. They are coupled. So that is the time relationship. As if the two things are in mesh, like two gears are transmitting power from one shaft to another shaft. So they are in mesh. If one moves, the other has to move. It cannot say, I will not move. No. So that is the time relationship. And it has to be continuous. else we have problems. So in the hobbing process, the hob and the workpiece, they rotate in continual time relationship. The relative motion of hob and workpiece generate an involute curve. So involute curve is this curve, the curve of the tooth, which is the most preferred curve. It is the curve which originates by unwinding the tip of the thread on a base circle diameter. We all know that. We have learned in the engineering. So this is the involute curve. So this involute curve is generated. Now you observe this is the hob. They have shown as a straight tooth. These sides are straight. And we get a gear in the involute curve. It's a curvilinear, isn't it? So how this is obtained? So every tooth of the hob cuts a little bit portion of the tooth get it flank. And when we join all these flats, we get this involute curve. Now how this involute curve is obtained? Because every tooth, the next tooth on the hob, it is positioned not just behind it, but in a helical direction. And slowly they come, and the tooth index here, the hob marches forward, the second tooth cuts forward, the third tooth forward, like that. So it happens in continuous motion, in fast, and that's how this involute form is generated. So every cut is called as an enveloping pattern or enveloping flats. And when these all enveloping flats are joined together, we get an involute curve. So at the basic root level, they are all flats. But when we measure the trace that flat, we get a smooth curve. They are in terms of microns. At the level of microns they have. But that means one idea we get here, if we have more number of flats on this portion, particularly from this tip to the root, then more the smoother curve, right? Then what we should do, we should have more number of teeth in the rotation of the hob. We'll come in the next sessions how that helps in accuracy of the gear. Now during this rotation, the hob is typically fed axially, with all the teeth being gradually formed as the tool traverses the face width. Now this is the face width of the gear. This is the hob. It is rotating in this direction, and the workpiece is rotating in this direction. The hob is fed, suppose at the beginning of the workpiece. We see the teeth will be getting. But when we have to cut across the face width of the gear, then we have to traverse this hob. We have to move this hob in the axial direction, in the downward direction, in this picture. Or you can move in the upward direction also. What is the axial direction? The direction which is parallel to the axis of the workpiece, the axis of the gear. So that is the axial direction. So hob is basically a worm. It has it is like a thread. Only these are the gashes. What you see over here, they are the gashes. And these are the cutting edges. And these cutting edges cut the workpiece. So if you cut the workpiece at one position, you will get the only dent mark, teeth. But to have a teeth, you have to pass it axially. Only the tool. The workpiece is stationary, but rotating in time relationship with the hob. Okay, this is the hob, how it looks like. This is the, again, we have a pitch diameter for the hob, similar like workpiece, what we saw earlier. And this is the lead of the hob. We say here lead, but in here we say the circular pitch. It's one and the same definition, the lead of the hob. So now here, one lead of the hob. So when one lead of the hob is like, it happens, it gets displaced or it gets moved by one rotation of the hob. That means when one lead on the hob is equal to one circular pitch of the gear, that means it clearly means when the hob rotates one rotation, the workpiece indexes by one circular pitch. Understood this point? Very important statement. When hob rotates one for a single thread hob, it rotates one rotation, then the workpiece is indexed by one circular pitch. So therefore, if there are 10 teeth on the workpiece, how many indexes, how many rotations of the hob should take place? 10 rotations. Because when hob rotates 10 times, then the workpiece has rotated one time. Because it has 10 teeth. Therefore, 10 rotations of hob will lead to one rotation of workpiece. Clear? Now we are going to the hobbing process. Again, this is the hobbing process topic, definitely. Now we are in hob here, we have a relief so that this only cuts the gear and no portion of this comes in contact with the cutting action. Okay, so we have to give relief. Then this is the tooth face, and this is the face, that is the rake face, which cuts the gear. And this is the gash. This is the gash, or the other word is flute. So this is the gash. So we have here how many gashes on the hob? So many number of teeth on the hob, equal. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is a 10 gashes hob. Okay. So when one rotation of the hob takes place, you just have to imagine what I'm going up to. When the rotation of one hob takes place, that means 10 teeth of hob come into picture of cutting one circular pitch of the gear, right? Now you can think how many teeth of the hob will be in the picture, will be responsible for cutting one flank of the gear teeth. Should be less than 10, isn't it? So this gives an idea. More the number of teeth on the hob, it will be better for more to have good surface finish of the flank. Followed what I just explained. I'll repeat it one more time for all of you. When one hob rotates one time while cutting, the workpiece is indexed by one pitch. If the workpiece has 10 teeth, then the hob has to rotate 10 times to complete one rotation of the workpiece. Now, when the hob rotates for one time, that is 10 teeth are involved in cutting off one circular pitch of the hob or one tooth space of the workpiece. That means it normally cuts at least 2 flanks. So could be like half or about, it is said, it is evaluated 30 to 40% of the teeth come into picture for making one flank. Now, if you take 30 to 40% means 4 teeth comes. So 4 teeth or 5 teeth will make one flank of the gear teeth, which may or may not be enough from the accuracy design. That's only the criteria we should think now at the moment. Okay. So we read out this. Side view of the hob shows how many cutting tooth is relieved radially by providing chip clearance behind the tail. We say here 10. The hob tooth takes on the shape of the straight-sided drag tooth. The hob has a straight tooth. Here we see this figure. It has a straight tooth. Unlike the gear tooth, which has an involute. This doesn't have an involute. Involute is out of a generating process creation. Thus, the greater number of gashes, eventually it means greater number of teeth. In the hob, the greater is the number of flats along the profile of the workpiece, which improves the smoothness of the tooth profile. That's what I was explaining to you.